At the Sheraton, when I was at the Sheraton in Sacramento, I didn't know anything, but for some reason I was hired as a pastry chef. This was about 20 years ago. And it's now a Marriott, actually, Marriott Club, but it was the Sheraton in Sacramento, the highest building around in Cordova. I had worked in the industry for a little while. I hadn't done any formal training, nor did I do my apprenticeship, but I was a ski bum chasing a ski bass, all right? So I had cooked in a variety of locations. But anyways, after returning home to Sacramento from Aspen, Colorado, or Kirkwood, up by Tahoe, I don't remember which one. I had been hired at the Sheraton, and an awesome guy, Gary Olander. You know, you kind of wonder whatever happened to individuals who actually had some good positive influence in your life. Gary Olander had been the sous chef, and he's second in command. The sous chef is under the executive chef. But he had given me this formula to use for chocolate mousse for the Sunday buffet. And all it is a mixture of chocolate and cream, put together much like a ganache. If you've ever made truffles, G-A-N-A-C-H-E, a mixture of chocolate and cream that can be flavored in different ways and shaped different ways. But the chocolate mousse was done much like that, in that you take some cream and heat it, pour it over the chocolate, the heat from the cream melts the chocolate, stir it till it becomes a smooth, homogeneous mixture, and then chill it overnight. I regularly give people my card and say, call me if you ever have any questions, whatever. All right, guys, I'm just giving bonus recipes before I actually start, so you might want to grab a pencil. So the chocolate mousse, it's very simple and straightforward, but I've had people call me and they're whipping this up and it's not whipping up, and they're saying, what's the problem? And I'm all, well, did you just make it? Well, yeah, and I'm whipping it up. And I'm like, but I told you got to make it the day ahead. You must make this base, the chocolate mousse base, at least a day in advance. So again, bonus recipes, we're not doing that today, I'm just killing time. Again, chocolate mousse, put chocolate mousse base. It'll become chocolate mousse when you whip it up, or when you whip it. I wouldn't want to end a sentence in a preposition. Pardon me, I'm in a library. Okay, chocolate mousse. I'm not going to give you rest. I'll give you quantities if you want, but it's a ratio thing. 4 parts cream to 1 part chocolate. So you may have 2 pints of cream. Make a lot, more than you're going to use in one setting, because this will hold in your fridge for a month. This will hold in your fridge for a month. Bring the cream to a boil and pour it over the chocolate. So you may have 2 pints, which is, a pint is pint 16 ounces. 2 pints is 4 cups. So you're going to have 4 cups of cream, 1 cup of chocolate. Save yourself the trouble of chopping chocolate and use chocolate chips. Okay? So 4 parts cream, 1 part chocolate. Remember, it's a ratio thing. I'll give you quantities if you want, but I used to make it with X amount of gallons and a 10-pound slab of chocolate. Okay? So, but the ratio is 4 to 1. 4 parts cream, 1 part what? Chocolate. And I use dark chocolate. I think it's milk chocolate. Because I would keep white mousse base on hand and dark mousse base on hand. If I wanted milk chocolate mousse, guess what? I'd combine the 2. Okay, and the white mousse base I would frequently flavor with other flavors. For example, pineapple juice concentrate or something of that nature, or raspberry preserve or raspberry juice concentrate as you're whipping it up, and then it becomes raspberry white chocolate mousse, pineapple white chocolate mousse, and those sort of things. So anyways, let me wrap this bonus recipe up so I can do the real class, since it's 2 now. Bring the cream to a boil, pour it over the what? Smooth it stir it until it becomes a smooth, homogeneous mixture. Okay, it'll look like chocolate mousse. Chocolate milk. Okay, then you need to chill it. You need to chill it at least overnight. Don't try to then whip it up. I have received calls, dude, I'm trying to make your chocolate mousse and it won't whip up. That's because they just made the mousse and they are now trying to whip it. You must chill this mixture overnight. Or can you hold it for a month?
Yes.
Or a week? Or whatever. Come on.
But you're using whipping?
Heavy cream. Heavy cream, yeah. There's a difference between whipping cream and heavy cream.
Oh.
Whipping cream is approximately 32% butterfat content. Heavy cream is approximately 40 to 42% butterfat content. Frankly, I prefer to use the heavier stuff because it makes more stable things, whether it's a mousse or a smoother sauce and what have you, or just plain whipped cream, slightly sweetened and scented with vanilla. Okay, so use heavy cream. Where I get confused is where they call it heavy whipping cream. Now, I'm a really simple individual, but that confuses me. I assume it's somewhere between 32 and 40. I don't know. I guess. The price will reflect the difference. if this pint of whipping cream costs you $1.65, this pint of heavy cream will cost you $2.65. Okay?
And it is in the market, I've never seen it.
It is in the market. In the market, it'll probably say heavy whipping cream. If you're going to make a bunch of chocolate mousse base to then be whipped up and used as chocolate mousse, go to Cash and Carry downtown and you can get the half gallon for about $5. You're doing yourself a favor. Well, maybe not for the I don't know. I don't know if you're doing yourself a favor. I'm going to curse at you right now. And so all you do when you want to use it, you pull it out of the fridge, give it a stir, because depending on the chocolate you use, some chocolate will leave a more firm film up top, and you want to stir that. It's no problem. Take out what you want to use, whip it until it becomes fluffy and light and holds a shape, in other words, stiff peaks. And don't over whip it or it'll start to be grainy. It'll start to turn grainy, like you're over whipping the cream, because that's exactly what you're doing. So, there's your chocolate mousse. Now again, there are those classic French pastry chefs, and I've fired many such chefs after having employed them, who will say that is not a classic mousse because there is no eggs. And frankly, I don't care. At the Sheraton, when I used to always do this, Gary Olander was kind enough to say, here is an awesome formula, use it on our Sunday brunch. I have had many compliments on it, as you will too. Okay, you can do a white version and flavor it with supplemental flavors such as what? Pineapple. Do a tropical white chocolate mousse. Pipe this into a martini glass out of a pastry bag and rim the edge with toasted coconut. And put in that pineapple mousse. Or take a wedge of something and put it on the side of the glass. Okay, it's really versatile, really simple, really easy to do. Think when you garnish it and put it in a glass, whether you pipe some out of a pastry bag into a wine glass or a martini glass or something of that sort, think a contrasting garnish. Think something red like a raspberry to garnish, or white chocolate shavings on the edge of the glass with a dark chocolate mousse. And to do that, and I didn't bring any props like that, moisten the edge with water or something like that and stick it in there. Okay, then pipe it in. Is that worth the price of admission, huh? I guess we can go now. No? Okay, I put some apple crumble. Okay, now we're going to start class. How you doing?
Good.
That was the intro to the intro. Doing all right? So you got chocolate mousse. Oh, by the way, I told you it's prepared like a ganache. If you're going to make a ganache, G-A-N-A-C-H-E, a good starting point is 1-to-1 ratio. 1 part chocolate to 1 part cream. And that is a good ganache if you want to use it as a chocolate dessert sauce, or glaze a cake, or dip eclairs or cream puffs, or a lot of other things you can do. So a 1-to-1 ganache means an equal ratio of what two things?
Chocolate and cream.
Chocolate and cream, okay? And I use heavy cream and I use dark chocolate. Why? Because I'm diluting that dark chocolate with cream. I want to start with something nice and intensely flavored. Okay? If you want to make a milk chocolate ganache or a white chocolate ganache, adjust the ratio a little bit. You'll need a little more chocolate to cream because it's more loose, having been cut or diluted with sugar and milk solids. Okay. So that's a good starting point for a basic ganache, a 1-to-1 ratio. Gee whiz. I think if you guys want to have chocolate and pastry classes, you need to see Janice here, who is the Director of Adult Education here at the Eagle Public Library, who was kind enough to put this event together for you. Let's see. Let's say if you want to make truffles. So in other words, you're going to use a ganache that is more stiff, that will be more firm at room temperature. You want to use about 2 parts chocolate to 1 part cream. Or depending on the chocolate, you may be able to get away with 1.5 parts chocolate, 1 part cream. Same method. Boil the cream, put it over the chopped chocolate, stir it till it becomes smooth, then let it sit overnight. Ganache you can keep at room temperature for a week. Yes, even though there's cream in there. Or in the fridge for at least a month, or in the freezer for 3 or 4 months. Wow, how can you keep that at room temperature? You actually brought that cream to a boil. You ultra pasteurized it. You took it well over 160 or 140, most bacteria is killed. So again, ganache, a 2-to-1 ratio is suitable for what? Truffles. Something that you want to be firm at room temperature. Okay, you'll shape those and roll them in cocoa powder, that sort of thing. So lest I get too far off course, we're going to come right back to this class now. And what are we doing? We're doing an orchard fruit crumble and a garden vegetable risotto. And since our kids aren't here, we're going to have dessert first. Orchard fruit crumble. We might not have dessert first, it depends. I put 2 of them in the oven already, but I saved one to assemble right now. About a crumble, there's no bottom crust, there's no batter. There's just a crunchy streusel topping that goes over whatever kind of fruit you want. In this case, I'm using apples. You could use, what else could you use?
Peaches.
Yeah, what else?
Pears.
Pears?
Berries.
Berries? Can you use a combination? Absolutely, absolutely.
Fresh cranberries, that works.
You could certainly use fresh cranberries. Sometimes I par cook, I just kind of blanch or chop the cranberries to get them going a little bit. So in this case, I actually put in a handful of candied ginger and dried cranberries in with the apples. Just whimsy, just for fun, just cause I had it sitting around. I chose to use Granny Smiths because they don't put off a lot of moisture and they're high in pectin, and that once this cools, it kind of holds together nicely. But can you use another apple? Yes. Be mindful that if you use something like another apple, like maybe a Gala or something like that, it may put off more liquid, like a pear might put off more liquid, like really ripe pears, or nectarines or peaches might put off more liquid. You may want to, in that case, toss your fruit with a little bit of flour. Just consider that, because if you have fruit down here that's putting off a lot of liquid and getting kind of loose and soupy, and you have streusel up here that you want to have crisp and crunchy, you're going to be kind of fighting a battle. You're going to have some middle ground where you have some doughy, moist stuff that's going to be, how do I say, less than appetizing maybe? I don't know, it's a textural thing to me. I want the fruit down here. I don't want it cooked to a baby food-like consistency mush. And I want crunchy, crispy cookies up top. That's the streusel, okay? The streusel, all I did, I gave you the recipe for the streusel because that's the main deal. Objective for me is to get streusel in system. The fruit's just a method to do that, okay? So here I have, that was a joke, darn it. Anyways, so here I have the flour, the brown sugar, and salt and butter. Don't forget the salt, please. And how it'll look loose and crumbly, okay? Don't mix it entirely till it comes together to a dough. However, my indicator as to whether or not it's properly blended is when I take a handful of the loose crumbly stuff and squeeze it, it'll form a chunk, then break apart into nice little, quote, cookies, close quote.
So you're using unsalted butter then?
You know what? I actually used salted butter in this case. You could use either. And there are some pastry applications where I would be really specific as to whether or not you should use salted or unsalted. In this, I'm not overly concerned either way. But sometimes, yes, I'll taste the streusel, and you want that salt. Now, supplemental flavors for the streusel. If someone mentioned oatmeal earlier, if you want to put oatmeal in your streusel, you're certainly welcome to. What I would do is use that as part of the dry ingredients, or even blend that in your blender or food processor and make it a flour. And then measure it like you are the flour. You could use white sugar and brown sugar in equal parts if you want. So there's some latitude here. Okay, this is a basic template, an idea which you may follow. You know, and granted, follow the recipe unflattered, okay? But really what I would prefer that you do is use your senses. Use what you have on hand. Use your judgment. Use your liberty, okay?
What about adding nuts for that?
Nuts you could certainly add. You could certainly supplement this with cinnamon. That would be highly appropriate in this case with the apples. You could flavor this with, say, cardamom, ground cardamom. If you're going to maybe make a cherry crumble, you could throw some vanilla in there, which I must confess I did with this. Okay, so supplemental flavors. Did I list those on your recipe? Nope, clumsy me. Supplemental flavors: citrus zest, lime, orange, lemon, dried spices, cinnamon, cardamom. Other optional nuts, oats, and so forth. Cool? Questions about the streusel? How do you know if it's done? You squeeze together a handful, right? And it'll break apart into loose chunks. Okay, so here's another baking dish. I have 2 of these already in the oven, just because I wanted to make sure we could get that streusel nice and crisp, and then cool slightly before we serve it. Cool? So, if you're a regular attendee of the Saturday Market in Eagle, which you should be, you will know that cherries ripen up first, then apricots, then peaches and nectarines, then pears and apples, right? So you can follow the seasons and regularly make orchard fruit crumble. You could also throw berries in there or a combination, right? Cool. Very good. You could actually take some of this streusel and bake it on a baking sheet all by itself until it's crisp and crunchy and use it as a topping for ice cream or in a parfait with yogurt and fruit. Cool.
You never peel the apples?
Sometimes. If this was a paid class, maybe I would have. I will put that tip jar out. I'll
Thanks.
peel one up for you.
Yes. Yes.
And they're starting to brown up, but what I did is I rotated them 180 degrees because most ovens are not perfectly even in temperature. Usually the back of the oven is hotter than the front. Oops, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be brushing that on the floor.
You're not at Martin Farmer's Market.
Brush on the floor, kick it aside, hope some canine will come clean it up for me.
We have vendors for it.
That's all right. I'll keep it on here and I'll just fold it up and take it home and laundry it. Okay, it's how I cut the apples. Let me just do this for you. I just quartered them. And peeling the apples or not peeling the apples maybe is a function of time, okay, and how much energy one wants to put into such a thing. All I do was quarter them and then just take the core out and chop it into chunks. I just take the core out like so. Now there's all kinds of fancy devices to core your apples and peel your apples, whatever. Use what you have. I don't care. I have a chef's knife and I like to use it. And if you think I'm cutting towards my fingers, I'm actually cutting at an angle that is not towards my fingers. Well, it's in the same direction of my fingers, but it's downward, okay? So here's my apples, and then you just cut them into chunks from there.
I thought you do your trick that you do with bell peppers, just cut down all around.
But I gotta save that for when I actually do the bell peppers, babe. Jeez. Yeah. Jumping the gun a little there, huh, Kenny?
Sorry.
You know what, I'm gonna go moisten this towel up just so I have something. I'll talk to you briefly about knives, chef's knives, and using them. Okay, so someone alert me to when about 12 minutes has passed, and I'll check those crumbles. Okay, so this is an 8-inch chef's knife. This is a Shun. It was actually given to me by the owner of a store that sadly is no longer there called Easy Cooking. And that was a kitchen store at Colon, Overland, and Boise. And Nancy, a dear gal, had given me this because I had attended the company Christmas party one year. And I like it. It's not a bad blade. However, I'm kind of partial to this decent hunk of German steel right here. Wusthof, spelled Wusthof, right? I like that. I also have a 6-inch Wusthof, which was given me for some reason by the sales rep on the West Coast. And I have a 10-inch Wusthof. However, and I want to get the 12-inch Wusthof, but that's more for shock value. This is what I use most, right here, this nice knife. I've had this for over 15 years. Okay, it's in pretty decent condition, huh?
That's the what inch one?
8-inch chef's knife. It's an 8-inch chef's knife. Now, frankly, I'm not here to promote these guys. It just so happens this is what works for me. I like it. I like the feel in my hand. It maintains a nice sharp edge. My Shun is a little bit lighter, and if afterwards you're interested in how these things feel, you're welcome to come up here and with my permission you may handle them. This is lighter. In my opinion, you should not approach a chef's knife with trepidation. Okay? Rather, you should come up here and choke up on it a little bit, like on a baseball bat, and take control of this and use it in this manner. You don't need to do a lot of banging and interacting. Okay? There's no sense in that. Now, usually there's an exception, but you know, slicing mushrooms or strawberries, one may do that. But this is how a chef's knife is intended to be used, okay, in that rocking motion. Comfortable, and usually the knife's not moving, but you're feeding food under it with your tips curled back, right? Okay? So there's a Shun. There's the Wusthof. Okay, I like this. This works for me, okay? 6-inch Wusthof, 10-inch Wusthof, guess what? They're all used in the same manner. Now, granted, sometimes I use this to carve a roast or something like that. Okay. treat him with care and respect. And someone at the Eagle Saturday Market actually asked me, that doesn't go there. That goes here. I lost the sleeve to that one. Someone at the Eagle Saturday Market one day said, hey man, one of the farmers said I may be able to borrow a knife from you to cut my watermelon I just bought from him. It's over there. And I said, you most certainly cannot. And he was offended. He was actually offended. And went pissing and moaning off in that direction. And frankly, I don't care, you know, but he didn't understand, obviously, okay?
Can't they cut watermelon? I don't mean to be dumb.
I'm sorry?
I don't mean to be dumb, but maybe I am. Can't they cut watermelon?
Well, yeah, with his own knife, sure.
Oh.
Okay?
In other words, you could.
It's like going to a doctor and saying, may I borrow your tools, man? I got a project going at home.
In other words,
You know, my daughter has a hangnail. May I use your tools?
Okay, so it's fine for
Frankly,
you.
I don't care. I'm sorry, I do care if you have a watermelon to cut and your daughter has a hangnail, but you're just not entitled to use my tools to take care of the problem.
But you could
Here's-
cut it with your knife.
Oh, I offered to. I said, hey, dude, bring it here. I'll cut it for you. But here he was, man. 3 minutes before I'm doing a demo, so I'm kind of getting my game face on. I'm getting my ducks in a row. And this cat wants to go traipsing across the Saturday Market with a nice hunk of German steel, very sharp. I think there's a liability issue here. And so I said no. And the dude actually got pissy, but I offered to cut it if he brought it to me.
Yeah?
You're going to edit this out, please? I tell you, man, he just didn't understand. It's like going to a mechanic, may I borrow your tools for the weekend? I'm working on my wall. Yeah. Good. Yeah, borrow my girlfriend for the afternoon while you're at it. Sure. Okay. You know what? There's something territorial to be said about a cook's mise en place. Mise en place, M-I-S-E-E-N-P-L-A-C-E, to put in place, to get your ducks in a row before service hour. Okay, it means you have your parsley, you have your basil, you have your salt, you have your pepper, you have your whatever. It means this is my station, here are my towels, and if I'm gone using the bathroom or getting a breath of fresh air or drinking some ice water, do not mess with my mise en place. Okay, this is sort of a little bit of a sacred zone for someone who comes back here and in a dinner rush or lunch rush or just for the heck of it is going to want to have his stuff where he can reach for it and at no thought, because of second nature, know where that is. Okay? And so to come up and say, may I take your main device and use it, and I don't know if the cat's going to cut it on concrete or on a hard concrete tabletop or whatever. I have no idea, but the answer is no. Sorry. However, again, with my permission, you are certainly welcome to. Okay? I'll let you. I'll let you come up here and mess around with them. Why? Because it's important for you to know what you want. You can go to a high-end cooking store and pay $100 for this guy. Okay? And they should have some available to let you handle beforehand. Or if you know you want this, or if you know you want this because it's lighter, order it online and you'll save, you'll save 40%. Okay, why? Because you know you want the Shun 8-inch, whatever. You know you want the Wusthof, whatever. Okay? So you're welcome to try my stuff with permission. Sorry. Am I being too hardcore? Is that bad?
No.
I tell you, just the mindset. It's just kind of how I think. I'm sorry.
Did he bring the watermelon to you?
He did not. But he went over and snibbled to one of the growers because I got feedback on that. I'm sorry. He's in the audience.
You didn't know the growers were all your friends, did he?
This is 12 minutes up. She wants to know if your 12 minutes are up.
No, he's still got another 6 minutes.
No.
But I'll check it just for kicks.
No. No.
You're good. Very good. Thank you. I have butter and olive oil. Again, I'm making here actually the risotto. I'll talk risotto in a minute. Because we have orchard fruit crumble working. Have a seat. Welcome. You haven't missed anything. We haven't talked anything useful, right?
Say, would you mind starting over?
I'll gladly start over. And there's this thing called... Let me check the crumble. Oh man, who didn't turn their phone off before class? I may at first glance say, oh, it is brown, take it out. Okay? And hold on. Because I'm looking at the top that is brown, but I'm looking underneath that, and it's doughy. Okay? So when I see it initially browning, I'm saying, cool, we're on our way. Okay? Does that smell good? Is that working? You guys want to try it?
Sure.
I'm sorry?
Does it get bubbly?
Yeah, that's the liquid from the fruit. It's coming off the fruit, okay? Now, the Granny Smiths aren't going to put off too much moisture, so we'll be good. But when I see it initially browning up like that, I go, okay, we're on our way, but what I'll do is I'll actually touch this more pale stuff, and it's actually really soft and doughy, okay? I want all of this to be pretty, very nicely browned. Pretty, very, that's a highly advanced culinary term, by the way. Okay, questions so far? Okay, so orchard fruit crumble. We make the streusel. You can keep that streusel on hand in the fridge or freezer. So make a double batch, make a whatever, okay? And then put it on top of any fruit you want, or bake it by itself and use it as a topping for ice cream, something like that. We used to also put it on, when I did my apprenticeship, we would put it on cheese Danish.
Put it on what?
Cheese Danishes. Cool. Also, you use this topping for like apple pies and cherry pies, stuff like that. So streusel topping is the crumbly, crisp cookie stuff on top. And that's what we're after, right? We try to act like we're after the fruit, right? Nah, I want the streusel. You could use white sugar in place of brown sugar. You could use equal parts of each. That's what I did in my shop, my pastry shop. I used equal parts of each. This formula, 3 cups flour to 2 cups. Oh, am I right? Yes. I think that's what I did for you. 3 and 2, that works really well with brown sugar with those 2 sticks of butter, okay? I don't claim to have good memory, sorry, I'm going to glance at that again. Okay, and again, supplemental flavors can be what? Cardamom, cinnamon, orange, citrus zest, okay, vanilla, nuts, oatmeal if you like. So, cool. Very good. You like options? Good, because you're going to get them. Okay, garden vegetable risotto. A risotto. How many of you have had risotto? Risotto is a creamy Italian rice dish, okay, made with arborio rice from the Po River Valley region of Italy. Northern Italy, where a lot of good stuff comes from. Parmigiano Reggiano, cheese, which we will use in the risotto. Balsamic vinegar and things like that. How many of you have made risotto? No? How many of you, yeah? How many of you would approach such a thing with trepidation, or are just here because you hear Gordon Ramsay swearing at people because they didn't do the risotto right? Which one? Trepidation? Gordon Ramsay?
Yes, chef.
Oh, you're good. You want to stir the risotto, sir? Are you sure? I need someone to help. Who has never made risotto? Never made risotto. Yeah? Oh my gosh. And who's afraid of the public? See, all of you want to help. Dang it! See what I mean? I only have 1 pot of risotto to stir. Joe, would you like to stir the risotto?
I'll do it.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Oh, you're Joe?
Joe. Oh, I said Joe.
He said Joe.
All right, Joe.
He said Joe.
I'll take Joe, but I'm going to make you wash your hands first, please. Thank you. I was going to say pull your hair back, but... Kidding?
Hold my back
Question.
there.
You're certainly welcome.
Even fine restaurants, that's why I really want to come for this. Even fine restaurants I've been at.
You didn't just come for the entertainment value?
Oh, always for you. But
Sorry.
they have nasty risotto people fail more at when I've gone to good restaurants than maybe any other thing I felt.
A lot of chefs finish off a risotto. Well, there's a lot of...
Ruin. A lot of them are bad, or when it's supposed to be a good
I'd
restaurant.
hate to badmouth my fellow cooks, but frankly, a lot of them do make sucky risotto and soups, in my opinion. Okay? I have a lot of chefs I respect and like and who are friends, but I tell you, their soups are lame, their whatever is, and granted, I have my opinion about how a risotto should go. And today, you will be able to judge as to whether or not you want to follow this recipe as a template. Okay? Hey man, I'm not offended if you don't want to do it. However, there are certain things I do that other chefs may not. For example, most chefs finish off a risotto with some butter at the end. In my opinion, I have enough butter and olive oil at the outset of cooking. So I finished off with a little hit of sour cream because the acidity plays well with a little bit of dry white wine you put in earlier on. Okay, and it wakes it up a little bit. And if you use butter at the end, in my opinion, it's more greasy and heavy and oily. Okay, so there's certain things that I do differently. I always begin by, and most anyone does this, which is we're going to start with some aromatics. We'll crank this up for you.
Okay.
So Joe, thank you very much. Should have brought a chef's coat for Joe, huh?
No.
And I'll just sit down and let him carry on the rest of the deal. I think I have a lighter. Okay, so here we have a little butter and olive oil. Now I'm doing a larger batch than your recipe says, okay? If you have someone coming over who is lactose intolerant or vegan, would you use butter? Correct answer is no. Want me to ask the question again? No. Would you use butter? So in other words, you can use butter and olive oil together like I do, or you could forego the butter, or you could forego the olive oil, okay? So I want you to use your senses. I give you some latitude here. Use what you have, or if dietary specification dictates, then do things a little bit different. Man, that thing's blazing. Gee whiz.
Turn it down, Cordell.
See outside doing these demos in the park, I can't ever see that flame. Apparently I don't hear those decibels either.
See, you already burnt your butter.
I didn't burn it. Mouth it off. So you guys can see Laura. Did you bring DVDs? You know what? I don't know if we're supposed to sell stuff in the public library. I'm not, anyways. But Laura has captured footage all summer long of my demos at the Saturday market and has DVDs that are 1 hour in length, 2 30-minute demos, available for $5. So great stocking stuffers, guys.
Lobster fried rice, shrimp scallops.
Scallops, lobster, elk steak, braised dishes, all kinds of things you'll see. All right, so what you're gonna do is approach pan with spatula. And all you're gonna do is kind of gently stir for about 18 minutes. Now granted, it may take 20 because my stock is not in a saucepan hot next to it, which we wouldn't have the lag time that we're gonna have here because you're just simply gonna add it. Yeah, we'll get there in a second. Okay, so risotto, I'm gonna boost you a little bit there. Okay, so here we have some aromatic vegetables. And in this case, I used the onions and carrots that I wrote on your recipe. Can we also put garlic in there? Can we also put some peppers in there if we wanted to? Again, you're going to use your liberties here. Use what you have on hand. Aromatic vegetables, let me see, French terms, we'll have language lessons here. Mirepoix, M-I-R-E-P-O-I-X, 2 words. Mirepoix is a classic trio of aromatic vegetables, carrot, celery, and onion, used in Western cuisine as a foundation or a starting point to many soups, sauces, dishes like this, and so forth, okay? Carrot, celery, onion would be the classic mirepoix. Now, can we vary the ingredients in our mirepoix or our aromatic vegetables? Yeah, sure. I don't use celery a whole lot, mainly because I was reading about Thomas Keller. If you know of the French Laundry in Yountville and Napa Valley, Thomas Keller is one of I think he probably has the world's best restaurant, I don't know. But he never uses celery. And so, granted, trying to be like St. Thomas, maybe I forego celery at that point. I don't know. But you could certainly use some peppers. You could, in fact, if you're in the South, you would certainly add peppers, bell peppers and other things to your mix, to your mirepoix, to your aromatic vegetables. So we begin by sauteing in butter or olive oil, or could you use both? Yes. You begin by sauteing your mirepoix, softening those up. And maybe I could have boosted enrollment had I done this at 15 minutes prior to class, right? Or, gals, if you want your significant other to think you've been laboring in the kitchen all day, just saute a little bit of aromatic vegetables like 5 minutes before it gets home. Maybe.
Yeah, your streusel should be done by now.
So you're going to saute that. I'm going to check the streusel. Or sorry, the crumble. Thank you very much. Sorry, I rarely use timers.
Whistle while you work.
So here we are, guys, getting a little darker, okay? But guess what? I'm still going to let it go about 6 or 7 minutes, okay? We're getting darker.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to still let it go. Don't be tempted to take it out of the oven once you see it beginning to brown. Feel it. Tactile, okay? I want these to be crisp, okay? So why don't you go ahead and add the arboreal rice. Go ahead, just saute that with the aromatics. Thank you. So, see, it's still soft.
It's dry.
See? So we're really going to give it 7 8 minutes. How about that?
No, it's not good. It breaks up.
I got it. It's like mixing concrete.
Hopefully it doesn't taste like it.
Would another kind of rice work if you only use this kind of?
Yeah, you can use carnaroli rice, but those would be the 2 classic, arboreal or carnaroli. I guess in a pinch you could try it, though I've never tried it with other rice. You know, now granted, I usually at home use long grain rice, okay? Jasmine, basmati, but that's for me, you know? Usually cooking for one, and you know, I can eat on that for a couple days, whatever.
Use a brown rice though,
No, actually, you know what? I've never tried it with other rice, but go ahead, try it. Report, please. So, this is a classic risotto. Risotto being a creamy Italian rice dish made with arborio or carnaroli rice, okay? It's a short or medium grain rice. I've heard it referred to as both. And again, it's from northern Italy. And, you know, the things that lend, there's two things that cause risotto to be creamy. And that is the particular rice you use and the method by which you cook it. And we're going to proceed with that method now. In the cup to your left, there is some white wine. Just go ahead in that little cup there, just go ahead and dump. Nice guy, eh? Here. Dump that in there, so the whole thing. There's about a cup and a half, whatever. And frankly, use whatever you have on hand. Now, if you don't have white wine on hand, use a splash of vinegar and a little bit of fruit juice. Because what we're after with the wine is not a buzz. We're after the acidity and the... Well, he is, apparently. We're after the acidity and the fruitiness, okay? But it smells good. So that is classic addition. Could you forego the wine if you want? Sure, go ahead.
A little bit of what kind of vinegar?
What I would do is something that simply makes sense. I wouldn't use red wine with vinegar because I wouldn't want to taint the color. Use a champagne vinegar or a white wine vinegar or a cider vinegar.
And then
Something.
any kind of juice?
Yeah, but again, if you want to forego that, don't be overly concerned. You could forego that wine or vinegar if you want to. Okay?
Would you compensate that amount with more broth?
If your recipe says, what's it say, a cup or a half cup?
A cup.
Half cup. Use a tablespoon of vinegar and quarter cup of fruit juice, apple juice.
Apple.
Very good. Yeah. You're after fruitiness and acidity, okay?
Do you use cooking wines or regular wine?
You could certainly use cooking wine if you want, but there's going to be salt in there, so don't season your dish with salt until after you add the cheese at the end, because if you have salt in your stock, and in your cooking wine, and in your cheese, you may not need to add any salt with it. So, yeah, you certainly use cooking wine. Whatever.
I'm bored.
Okay, begin adding stock. I am too, good. That makes two of us. Now the method for cooking risotto is that you do not add all the liquid at once, cover, steam it like you're doing the absorption method like you're cooking long grain rice. After you've sauteed your aromatics with your rice, what kind of rice? Arborio rice. We're going to add stock, a cup or two at a time, a ladle full at a time, okay? And so here I just have it in pitchers and we'll add, and I had 4 cups of rice if I'm not mistaken because I think I did the math. Now granted I went to public schools, sorry. I think my math is right. Your ratio of liquid to rice is approximately 4 to 1. 1 part rice, 4 part liquid. Whether or not you count the white wine in there, I don't care. It's kind of a loose interpretation. It's a loose ratio. Does that coincide with your recipe? 1 cup rice, 4 cup stock? Very good. This is vegetable stock. So this dish would be vegetarian, though it wouldn't be vegan because I have butter in there and I'm going to put cheese in there. Okay? So you want to kind of keep it moving a little bit, just casually stirring the whole time. And the time in which you can run this spatula through and have let me step right in front of you. At the time in which you can run the spatula through and have a hold of line is when you need to add more stock. Do we add more stock yet? No, because it's not holding the line, okay? Just think kind of Moses, right? Parting of the risotto, okay? Pardon me, if you were vegan, I'm so sorry. No, I'm serious, man. You gotta have these indicators so you remember this stuff, right?
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So when it holds the line and you can walk through on dry ground, you're good to add the what? Stock. You're good to add stock. And do you add it all at once or do you add it incrementally? Very good. And your ratio of liquid to rice is what? Well, you know this already. What am I doing here?
Did you say it was critical to have the stock hot?
Yeah, you won't have the lag time. So this will take about 18, 20 minutes. Otherwise, if you had your stock hot, you wouldn't have that drop in temperature and come back out. Now, granted, we have some BTUs here, so we're going to be all right. Okay? BTUs. Define it. BTU. Nice! British thermal unit. You're good. And that's a measure of heat, by the way. So we're holding the line, right? We can add more what? Now, could this be chicken stock?
Sure.
Sure, why not?
Beef stock.
But this just, it could be beef stock if that makes sense with your dish, okay? So a classic dish, let's think about a classic risotto alla milanese served with osso buco. What would that be? That would be saffron risotto in the style of Milan with braised veal shank, okay? Classic Italian dish, okay?
It's time to check on your strudel.
Yeah? It's
Yeah.
been 7 minutes?
Yeah.
Tell you what, we'll pull it out, okay? We'll let it cool a little bit, because heck, man, we're 40 minutes into this class already. We gotta get you samples of 2 things in 20 minutes time. What if I go over?
Did you make your own stock or did you just use the?
I do make my own stock, but for free classes, not usually, sorry. I hang my head low. I actually use a lot like the base, maybe like vegetable base or chicken base, but make sure salt is not the first ingredient. So bouillon cubes, you might want to avoid those because salt will be the first ingredient, okay? Get those cartons, those ones that are resealable, right? Because you can get like organic, low sodium chicken broth, okay? And vegetable stocks do vary. Try different brands and find one you like. This one is actually a base that I hydrate because when I do gigs in different places, frankly, it's easier for me to carry that little jar around than those things of stock.
Is there a difference between stock and broth?
Stock and broth. Stock is the basic foundation, the extraction of the bones or whatever you put in the pot, from which you then extract flavors from the mirepoix on the bones and the bouquet garni. Broth is a more seasoned, finished product on its way to becoming a soup. Okay. Excellent questions, yes.
Better than bouillon, if you turn that into water and stock, is that?
Yeah, it's going to be a little overly salty, so do a thin dilution if you do that. So, bouillon, hey man, it's a great thing to take backpacking. All right? I used to do that. You know, because hey, in a pinch, there you have a little bit of water and some bouillon, you have something salty and flavorful to warm you up before freezing in a blizzard. I'm sorry. Should I be more professional, sir? We're going to pull the crumble, let it cool slightly, serve it up.
Maybe a neutral.
We'll just let this cool for a little while, okay? Yeah, don't serve it. Cool.
Stock time.
What's up? Stock time? Go ahead. Proceed. So, risotto generally takes about 18 minutes. Did I give a time indicator for you? Or did I just say proceed till all the stock's gone? Like cup at a time? Okay, all right. See, time is only one indicator. I quit asking, oh, how long does that bake for, when I was doing an apprenticeship, and I kept being told, till it's done. Now granted, time is not a bad thing, but there are a lot of variables that I can't control. I don't know if the thing you're putting in the oven is cold, or if it's room temperature. I don't know if your oven is perfectly calibrated, or if it's a convection oven or a conventional standard oven. There are a lot of variables. So when you see time as an indicator on a recipe, use that as a guideline. I could say bake this crumble till however, whatever, but I'm telling you also touch it, touch the streusel, because tactile, smell, you know, there's a lot of senses that you have, so I encourage you to use those senses. Again, time being only one indicator.
Convection is faster.
Convection oven is faster because there's a fan in there that moves the air around. So the air is slamming against the product. It's like the wind chill factor working in reverse but with heat.
About 10 minutes.
Adjust either the time down or the temperature down.
25
Yeah. Some convections, though, are stronger than others. They really vary. They really do vary.
So where's the stock going? Into the risotto stuff?
Excellent question.
Or into the arboreal rice?
I briefed him, or we rehearsed this earlier. The stock is not only being absorbed into the rice, but it's reducing, which is a fancy word for evaporation. Water evaporates off, it concentrates what's left behind. So not only is the stock reducing, but it is, you are good. See him testing? See the indicator? Nice.
So how soon do you want to add this? How long do you let this off?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, because I wrote that. I'm sorry. Very good. Thank you for keeping me on my toes. There's some broccoli and a little bit of cauliflower, even though I didn't write cauliflower in the recipe. I'm sorry, because I remember after the first edition of stock, we added the, there you go. Make a swim. Go ahead and dump all that in there. Dump that whole one in there and retire this container. There you go. Thanks. Thank you. I'm sorry. So what we want to, I don't ever get sidetracked. So we want to add any vegetables that are more dense or cut larger to preserve their shape, basically. I cut these a little larger. And we want to add them so they have ample time to cook and soften slightly. not be mushy, baby food stage. But things like the bell peppers, we don't need to add until the end, because I'm going to julienne these bell peppers. That way you can simply define some of the terms that I probably wrote on your recipe. We'll chiffonade some basil, we'll julienne some bell peppers, okay?
You know, if you forget this stuff, she's got videos you can watch.
Oh, okay. Yeah, believe me, I do forget. I'm like, oh. Hey, dude, I attended your demo. It was great. I'm like, really? What did we do?
You do that all the time, actually.
I do. Yeah, remember this stuff?
That's not the way you did it in your movie.
You're probably right. Why? Because I teach people to use their senses and to vary the ingredients. Now, granted, sometimes I overload it with veggies, and I tell you, you guys see that? Yeah, you're welcome to stand up and come over and take a peek if you want, if you're getting bored or lethargic or, no? Stretch your legs. Okay, so add the things that are cut larger, or like the broccoli or the cauliflower is going to be more dense. So it needs to be added with plenty of liquid so it has time to simmer and soften. Other things like the cheese, we're just going to melt in there. A little creme fraiche or sour cream, we're just going to season at the end, some fresh herbs. Anything like these bell peppers are really soft. So do they need a prolonged cooking time? They do not. They do not. All right.
Pepper.
Did I cut it?
Yeah, cut pepper.
Have I left anything else hanging out there that I haven't like come back to and defined or talked about? No? Good? Okay. Sorry, sometimes I leave some things out there and take this roundabout way and get off on these tangents. All right. Here's a bell pepper. I used to cut these in half and dig out the seeds and those membranes and stuff, and it would take a while. But nowadays, I just kind of cut off the panels that I want. Nice, pristine pieces of bell pepper that I can then throw that away. Right? Both seconds that took, huh? Saved you a couple minutes, right?
I saw that down at the Saturday market.
You did? Who was doing that? Oh, sorry.
Cook guy.
Some good guy. And then we're going to use our handy dandy chef's knife, right? We're not going to grab a paring knife and say, oh, but it's just one little bell pepper, right? We're going to use a knife.
I have a
Sure.
They said that there's a car in the parking lot leaking gasoline, 1A WW780.
It's like a red solstice. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So then you can't add the cars system gas.
Uh-oh. Oops. That's okay, no problem.
Get such good mileage, it
Safety
generates its
first,
own
huh?
fuel.
Turn that thing up. So I do clean up some of those membranes a little bit, right? And then all I'm going to do is julienne this, or cut it into matchstick size strips. Narrow and slender, and a proper julienne is, something like this or this, okay? Proper julienne, right? Okay. So what we're going to do, go ahead and add more stock, okay? We're kind of getting our pan full. Now I've seen risotto made in saucepans, higher sides, more narrow or more not as large a diameter. But I like the wide surface area. It facilitates reduction. Okay? There are two things, again, I'm going to reinforce this, two things that make or that give risotto its signature creaminess. One is the particular rice you use. Second is second is the method. The method by which we make this, by which we assemble this, in that we're adding stock incrementally and stirring, and the surface starch is coming off of the rice and going into the liquid. And you're welcome to come up and take a look here, and we're simmering vigorously. We're simmering pretty vigorously. We have that heat up pretty high. Now, if you were going to make this ahead and wanted to kill the heat, push it to the back of the stove, go upstairs, take a nap, shower, get ready, get dressed. When you're anticipating your guests' arrival, come down, turn it on, add your last couple ladles of stock, season it up. Okay? You can make this ahead and let it sit for an hour or so. Okay? You're actually safe from a health department standpoint. You're safe outside of refrigeration for 4 hours. Okay? Right? So make it a couple hours ahead of time. Do yourself a favor, right? Okay? And then all you got to do is warm it up, and you're going to simmer it for a couple of minutes, season it up. Okay?
So why is that guy on TV always screaming at his people because the risotto's wrong? How do you know if it's right or wrong?
Dude, that's totally theatrics. I know someone who knows that cat, and they say he's a cupcake. He's a really nice guy. I'm just gonna go around the edge to make sure we don't have any hard, dry kernels. And the risotto, I've heard him yell that, and again, I don't watch too much TV, when I have caught that shell, it's like, oh, the risotto is overcooked, okay? Risotto, arborio rice has a little white curly eye that never gets entirely soft, unless, you know, you cook it for 25 minutes, okay? But it's sort of al dente, should have some toothiness to it. Okay, so here we have our vegetable risotto. I am gonna back the heat off just a little bit and sort of ease into the final bit here. Why don't we go ahead and taste, and when we taste, do we do double dippies, guys? There shall be no double dippies, okay? I'll show you how I might plate something like this. But we're gonna taste, single-use tasting spoons, old spoons going here. You're not cutting out on me, are you?
No.
No?
I bet.
Okay. No, you're gonna get in on this.
Okay.
Here you go, taste it. So we're testing for two things, flavor and doneness, okay? So I'm gonna get, and now I'm not gonna try to eat this hot whatever. So I'm gonna give it a smell and step away from the pot, thanks. I'm sorry, there's certain pet peeves I have when I see those cats on TV, like tasting over the thing, right? And like double dipping, licking their fingers. Why would I smell the food?
You gain as much from the aroma that you do from the taste.
On your palate, you can only taste four things. What are they? Sweet, salty, sour, bitter, right? That's what they say anyway. I believe them. Why? Because when you have a cold, you lose this sensory up here, your food tastes flat. Okay? So I'm going to smell it. Go ahead, throw that. And you can proceed. One time my son Jake, he was 8 years old at the time. We were catering a gig in Seattle, near Seattle. From one, remember the Gotcha label, watches and stuff? It was one of the founders of that company. He's long since cashed out. But Walter had me and my son Jake helped me. We were doing a gig for 80 people. Jake was stirring risotto. Dad, my arm's tired. Well, you have another one. Granted, it takes constant attention, right? Hey man, if an 8-year-old could do it, I know you could do it. If I can do this at the park, I know you can do it at home. Okay, so we're done. Keep the heat on it, add some more stock. We're gonna add some more stock. Why? Because if we do not, go ahead and add some cheese. I have some Pecorino Romano, and go ahead and add this sour cream. I have some Pecorino Romano and some Parmigiano Reggiano. Okay, 2 hard cheeses. Now, frankly, keep a wedge of hard cheese on hand. I don't care if it's Asiago, Romano, Grana Padano, Parmigiano Reggiano. Frankly, I don't care. But having a wedge of hard cheese on hand, great and fresh, is wonderful. Okay? Very good. Cool. You are savvy. You've done this before, huh?
No.
You're sure?
Yeah.
All right. Chiffonade basil. This is basil. I actually have some parsley and a little bit of tarragon also. There you go, stir that in there, thank you. I have some parsley, some tarragon, but I am going to show you how to chiffonade some basil. Take some leaves, roll them up. Okay, and you don't chop repeatedly as if you were chopping parsley. You just want to run your knife through it once, and you have these nice ribbons, these elongated strips, and that is a chiffonade, translated to shred or tear to rags. Okay, chiffonade. There you go, chiffonade basil. We're going to show you how to plate something like this. Here's some chive oil, olive oil, with a handful of chives. Blender about 2 minutes. Hit it with salt, so the oil doesn't taste flat and bland. It actually. So again, oil, chives, salt, chive oil. This could be any fresh herbs. It could be basil and parsley. It could be whatever, cilantro, if those flavors work with what you're doing. Just so happens I had it left from a gig the other night. I said, let me use it here. So,
Do you
chop.
refrigerate that?
I do definitely refrigerate it. Whenever I introduce a foreign object into oils, I'll even take, like the oils I would use at the Saturday market, I had a Southwest chili oil that was nice reddish hue. I had a curry ginger oil, using those dried spices, that gave me yellow drizzle. I had this, and after I got home from the Saturday market, I'd put them in the freezer. So store them in the freezer or the refrigerator. Refrigerator if you're going to use them within 2 weeks, freezer if you're going to intermittently use them. All right. How you doing? Want to help me season it up, or you need a break?
Nope.
Need a break?
No, I'm ready to go.
You ready to go? Help season this thing up?
Sure.
See where we stand. Again, we know we're done, okay? So we're testing for flavor now. We're gonna see, we'll probably add some black pepper and some salt, okay? Wonderful.
It's supposed to be that way, huh?
Check it out. Nice observation. It's
I
really
can't
runny,
smell
she
that.
said. I call that loose consistency. Runny, man. Okay, I'm sorry. So sorry. Here's the thing. I have a concern with some chefs who use risotto as an overly starchy element. And it's an element which maybe they'll lay in a ring, and then they'll lay some protein, and then they'll lay some greens or salad, then another garnish, and then they'll unmold it, and it all stays nicely in shape. Nonsense on stilts, man. Okay? I don't want it to be so stiff. I want it to be loose and creamy. Okay, that's my objective. That's why I had you add more stock, even though we determined it was done. And so come on up, take a look if you want. We have all our cheese, we have our sour cream, because as this sits, the starchiness, as it cools, it's going to stiffen up, okay? It will stiffen slightly. So I err on the side of being more loose and creamy, okay? Nice job, by the way. I'm pretty sure you've done this before. You read a cookbook before, huh?
I'm watching the master over there.
You're so good. We're gonna give it 9 or 10 twists of black pepper. Sorry, white pepper. All right, so loose and creamy, right? Now, if you want it stiff and starchy to hold a better shape, you're certainly welcome to do that, right? Right?
So you just cook it a little longer?
You know what? Just add a little more stock and just make sure it's warmed through.
But won't it make the rice mushy?
You know what? If there's some good happy middle ground. If you keep going, yes, it'll make it overcooked, and then Gordon Ramsay may show up on your doorstep screaming. Okay?
I have done that. I have done that.
It is possible to overcook arboreal rice. Okay? But here, we're going to taste again, right?
Go ahead.
Are you not going to get in on it? All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Well, thank you. Why don't you guys give him a big hand, right? Oh, sorry. That was very good. You hold the food. It's like the dentist asking you questions as he's got his fist in your mouth.
Did everybody get some?
How's that? Worth
Crisp
eating?
is fabulous.
Is that worth eating? I need to know what you guys are eating.
Crust is crunchy.
Very nice. Should be. Should be. Nice. Textural thing, right? Think contrast. When you're composing a dish or a plate or a buffet spread, think contrast. Think color contrast. Do you want it all neutral? Would you serve chicken with corn with mashed potatoes? Well, maybe. It probably tastes fabulous, but how does it look? It looks fairly neutral. Okay? So it screams, hey, I need color. I need some red. I need some splashes of green color. Okay? So think about that. Think about also not only color contrast, think about textural contrasts. Something nice, smooth, and creamy with something crisp and crunchy. Something more rich and creamy like with something light and flaky. What about temperature contrast? Let's say you have a hot piece of grilled fish or chicken and you put a cold mango salsa on there, right? Just think salsa, but omit some of the, or all of the tomatoes. You still have some pepper and some lime and some cilantro, but you have mango or pineapple or apricot or cherry or whatever, and you chill that and you serve it on hot fish. So think about contrast. Think about a buffet spread that has only things laying table level on platters. No, dude, you need some height. So you might make some twists out of puff pastry, which we're going to cover in 2 weeks right here in this very room. Puff pastry twist that you can then display out of a vase or a glass. And then you have height, and you serve that with fruit and cheese and stuff like that. And so you think about visual contrast. It's way more appealing. Okay? So I might put something like this on heat. How do you like that crumble? I haven't tasted mine yet. It works for you?
Yes.
Well, why don't you give Janice a big round of hand because she has put this together.
It's not too sweet.
Very good. Well said. I tell you, man, I was taught by Swiss chefs who, in the old world, we didn't sweeten things up. You don't sweeten things up like here. You go get a cake from the grocery store, it's a whole different animal than a cake you'll get from me. So, yeah, sugar's cheap, man. You can increase your yield vastly by dumping a whole bunch of sugar in there, but why? Then you can't taste the vanilla, or the nut, or the raspberries, or the crunch of the whatever. Come on.
Is that just
raw cranberries in there, is that what you said? Or did you put
Sweet and
raw-
dried crainberries. Craisin is a brand name, but they're sweet and dried cranberries, what they're called. Could you put any other dried fruit? Raisins, golden raisins, currants, mango, pineapple, papaya, whatever. All those are available at the bulk bins at Winco, by the way. Even though it's going to cool it off, I hate to do this, I'm going to loosen it up a little bit because the 2 minutes it's going to take me to just kind of yak a little more about this, it's going to stiffen up more, and I want it loose and creamy, right? In fact, I'm just tempted. I'm sorry?
Do you have to be careful about the amount of vegetables you put in so that it, I mean, do you have a formula? 'Cause it seems like if you put too many, it would be too.
I've been guilty of that. I remember I did this class at Easy Cooking. I'd come to Idaho, but I was still doing gigs in California. And I had left there just like, I'm like, guys, I gotta go. I was doing a consulting job at a new restaurant in Lincoln, California, if you know where that is. And it was in a Del Webb, Sun City community, a restaurant in a strip mall. And I said, I gotta go, guys. I gotta hit the road because I had a class scheduled here at Easy Cooking. And I'm like, I gotta go. And I said, I'll be back next week if you want me to. But I hit the road. I'm like eating like no-dos. This is disgusting. I'm eating no-dos by the handful, like driving all night across Nevada. I get here in time to shower, throw a chef's coat on, go do this class, and Emily Simnett, who writes for the Idaho Statesman, was there, and I didn't know this, and I do this risotto, and it was so loaded with vegetables, there was hardly any rice left. Granted, my distortion was skewed, apparently. I mean, my vision, even my verbiage is skewed there. Sorry, my vision was a little off, and my ratios were off. I had so many veggies in there, it's like, wow, where's the rice? And so there is a point, yes, where you can add too much. So you want the veggies to work with it and supplement it well. I like it that way anyways. Or you can just use a little bit and feature the rice primarily. Use your own liberties, your own judgment. So, cool.
If you wanted to make one that had less vegetables, do you need to add more liquid?
No, your 4-to-1 ratio is a starting point. And mine, because I like it more loose and creamy, would probably be closer to 5-to-1. So that's a starting point, and the vegetables shouldn't really factor into that too much either way, because the vegetables aren't going to absorb the same amount of liquid per ounce as the rice. So again, it's a really kind of sensory thing. I mean, I think I did 4-to-1. Who knows? Maybe my math was off, but I have some stock left. So any of you want some vegetable stock? So again, depending on how stiff you want the risotto, or how loose and creamy, or. So use your sense.
The fruit crumble.
Uh-huh.
How much fruit would you use?
Oh, you know what? Did I not give any approximate measurements? Oh, I did. I actually said come so far up the pan, right? 2/3 the way up the pan. Is that what I said?
Yeah.
And then top it with a generous amount of streusel. What I had is kind of like that much fruit, that much streusel. Okay? Sorry, it's not an exact measurement, but I don't know the size of your pan. And I didn't want to specify. Frankly, it seems micromanagey a little bit when it says use a 9x13, whatever. Well, what if I need to serve 10 guests and that's going to serve 8? So am I trying to encourage you to use your senses a little bit and not be so dependent upon the written word on that page? Yeah.
I noticed you used pans that weren't glass. They say it browns better when you use brown pans and not glass.
It is true that different materials function differently. I personally love ceramic or stoneware or clay stuff. Okay, those dishes came from Ross, $5. Love that, man. Ross, beeline to the ceramics aisle, right? Going through, sometimes I score, sometimes I don't. Okay? $5 for those pans, right? If one cracks, I drop it, break it, I'm not pouting. Okay? Now granted, if I get a $35 or $60 or $100 Emile Henry, spelled Emily Henry, pan from a high-end cookware store, serious, Emile Henry. Okay? Don't believe me? Read it though, it'll say Emily Henry, I promise. Now I'm crying if I break one of those.
Yeah.
Guess what? I have both. But when I travel around, guess what comes with me? So. Glass, however, heats up and cools down more readily like metal. Clay is more even. Especially if you have an electric oven and that element's right there, you are less likely to burn the bottom of your stuff if you are cooking in or on clay. That's why if you have an electric oven, it's advantageous to get a pizza stone. Set it on the bottom rack, positioned right over the element, leave it in there all the time. And bake, whether you're baking on it or above it on another rack, I don't care, but it creates a buffer from that hot element that's burning the bottom of your food. Okay?
What's that called again?
Pizza stone. Heck, you could use ceramic tiles. You could use ceramic tiles that are heat tolerant or resistant or fire brick or whatever, all kinds of stuff like that. So I love stoneware. I like ceramic stuff. So now you know what to get me in December. Okay, so here we have risotto. I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to take it over there. And yes, you can gently use these metal tools in here. Gently, I don't care. Someone at the Saturday market kind of like had a hard time. I was doing that. Yeah, like that one? Oh, you're using metal pan? I said, oh, yes! My cookware is here to serve me. Now, granted, I'm not in there going, because if so, that wouldn't be black pepper. That would be flex that stuff. But when I'm gently going in there with a metal thing, right? Babe, that's a $20 Costco pan, right? And I've had it since 2007. I'm on bonus years with that thing. Now, if I spent $900 on a 7-piece set from Williams-Sonoma, maybe I wouldn't use metal in
Oh,
there.
we could, yeah. Or we have others, whatever.
Either one, keep the forks or.
Sorry, am I too frank? No? Jeez. My cookware's here, sir. If that's looking dodgy after another year or so, guess where it's going? In the garbage. And I'll traipse on down to Costco and acquire another one. So here we have risotto. Here we unmold. Now granted, you see how, since I've been yakking, see how it falls though? Granted, I don't really want it to hold a pristine shape. I'll use that ring because it also gives me a portion indicator. So if I'm doing a menu and I have to cost it out, I know X amount of ounces of risotto fits in that mold. And I don't care if it flows onto the plate. In fact, I actually prefer it. And then we might come with a little drizzle, like so. We might hit it with a little fresh herbs. And we may even give it a little brunoise, which is a very finely diced, pristine little mince of something red. Why? Because remember that whole contrast thing? Oh my gosh, we're over 3 o'clock. Are you guys all right being in detention? You all right? And so if you want a little brunoise, just carefully as a garnish. When I was pulling a stint teaching at BSU in the Culinary Arts department, these guys would go, man, and I'm like, dude, it's a garnish, not a salad, take it easy. Okay? You just want those color accents, okay? And there we are. So, is that worth eating? No? You guys are so nice. So nice. All right, so there's our risotto. And want me to garnish yours with some chive oil, guys? Oh, you guys are already eating. I forget it. Next time. Okay, so we did an orchard fruit crumble. You guys savvy with that? Yeah? You're cool? Could you use cherries?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Garden vegetable risotto. Now, can you use whatever veggies you have on hand? Yes, you don't have to follow this. Don't make a special trip to the store for a bell pepper or broccoli or whatever. Use what you have on hand, okay? Let's say you wanted to serve some chicken with this risotto, or lamb chop, or a steak, or piece of fish. You could, in the saute pan, when you add your butter and olive oil, sear that piece of meat, okay? And if you need to finish it in the oven, that's fine, but otherwise just cook that, remove to a platter, proceed in that pan with the risotto, okay? So you're using one pot. And then, that item then, at the end, once it's done here, you take that chicken breast, slice it, fan it out, put it on top of there. Okay? The old chef's trick of making 3 ounces of meat look like 5. Okay? Slice thinly on the bias, fan it out. Okay? Or take those pristine little lamb chops, or that nice couple of scallops that you seared in that pan before you started the risotto, and then perch them right on top. Beautiful, right? And if you can get a little bit of height on the garnish, a couple inches of height with some sprig of herbs, rosemary, something like that, man, you can charge an extra $5 for that. Right? I know you can use that trick.
And this is always a side dish, right? You wouldn't put.
No, it can certainly be an entree.
Yeah.
Yes, without question. But I frequently actually serve risotto as a first course in 5-course meals. Personally, I don't follow the average template that most classically trained chefs use because it's boring. They'll take like a salad, a soup, a fish, a meat dish as an entree, and a dessert. I was like, come on, dude. So what I'll do is I'll serve a risotto because it's somewhat substantial. It may or may not have a piece of trout or scallop or something like that on top. But I know then when my guests arrive to a meal, I can at least get something in them right away because I don't know if they're starving or what. But then I'll bounce over to something lighter like a salad. And I'll alternate between rich and lighter. Remember contrast? Well, I look at meals as a whole like that too. So is that working for you? Did I ever get a final taste and seasoning on that? Oops, am I serving you something dodgy?
Really good.
You're sure about that, right? You're sure? Oh, right here. Yeah. That's not bad. That's worth eating. Maybe I'll have a plate later. Any questions?
And you didn't use any salt in that at all?
I actually didn't salt it because there's a little bit of salt in the stock and there's salt in that, especially that pecorino romano.
Oh, yeah,
Pardon me.
okay, but you didn't add just salt.
I probably would have had I given it more attention. Probably given it a little, maybe. But how'd that work for you? Is that all right? You like that one? No, very good. Cool. Questions? Yeah, I gave it like a bunch of twists of white pepper. You could use black pepper also. So, but you taste the veggies, you taste the herbs.
Herbs are right.
Like that. I like you using a lot of
Is it
herbs.
herbs or herbs?
Is it tomato or tomato? I don't know. What's the difference between an herb and a spice? Herb.
$2 a pound.
Be quiet. An herb.
Maybe an herb is what fresh, and when it's done up and dried, and then it's called a spice.
You're getting there. You're thinking in the right direction. An herb is the leaf of an aromatic plant, be it fresh or dry. An herb is the leaf of an aromatic plant. A spice, the seed, root, or bark of an aromatic plant. Seed, fennel, coriander, caraway. Root, horseradish, ginger. Bark, cinnamon. So those are spices. Herbs, the fresh leaf. What plant yields both, an herb and a spice? Sorry, I wish, if I was savvy, I'd know the Latin name.
Cilantro.
Cilantro is the leaf, coriander is the seed. Same plant. Geez, you guys are getting your money's worth, huh? All right.
How much tarragon would you put in?
Oh, 2 tablespoons probably. Should I not have? It plays well with the basil, and just so happens I had some left from a gig last night.
Now, wait. So that wasn't, I was.
Yeah, again, herbs, my classic go-to duo is basil and parsley. Just so happens I had a little bit of tarragon left from a gig,
And you
okay?
had how much in?
A couple tablespoons. But again, I'm using double batch, so don't be too particular about those quantities, okay? Don't be too particular. You guys have any more questions?
Yes.
Huh?
What's the
Yeah.
best way to preserve some of the herbs, like basil will turn brown so easily?
Yeah.
When you buy.
How do you want to preserve for a long period of time, or just like the 2 weeks until you can get around to using it?
So you can get around to using it, or eat both.
Keep them dry, just in the fridge, but
Debbie bags.
yeah, you can use bags, or I see people wrap them in moist paper towels, but then put it inside a bag and seal it. I see different things. I don't know how humid your refrigerator is, so that I'm not sure exactly. But what I'll do.
The oil sounds like a good idea too. That would keep it for a while.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. It all depends on if you want these pristine leaves to use 2 weeks later, or if you have a bunch and want to dry them so you can use them in the off season. The original preservation methods first came about because, and you guys are welcome to seconds, by the way. Go ahead. The original preservation methods were designed or invented or whatever so you could have that thing in the off season. So I'm all for storing some food, right, for down times. But to store something for 10 years doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So remember, we store something so we can use it in the off season. So the original preservation methods, drying, smoking, packing in high amounts of salt, sugar, or alcohol. Okay? Let me go through those. Drying, you would make jerky. Smoking, Native Americans on the coast maybe would smoke their salmon. Okay? And there's fast or hot smoking, and then there's slower smoking, which actually does dry. So it's much the same as drying, like making jerky, whatever. Packing in high amounts of salt. Salt's an alkaline, and it will inhibit the growth of mold, or should. Anyways. Packing in high amounts of sugar. Take something like simple syrup and simmer that thing like candied orange zest. Something like that. You can make your own candied orange zest by taking simple syrup, sugar and water, boiled together with a splash of corn syrup, glucose, so it inverts the sugar, changes it from a single sugar to a double sugar in case you're interested in the chemistry of it. And you simmer these fruits in that. For example, or then let's move on. Brandied cherries. Okay? Take cherries, and these brandied cherries may later find their way into a Black Forest tort or Zuckerkirsch tort, things like that. So again, these original preservation methods, my choice with herbs would be drying. They would be drying. Oil is volatile. That's why I store that in the freezer if I'm not going to use it over the course of the week. So the oils are volatile, especially when you introduce a foreign matter in there. So.
If you're trying to save basil for soups, you can take your ice cube trays, fill them with water.
Make pesto
put
and freeze
your-
it, or?
Well, just put your basil leaf in the water, freeze it, and
See ya.
then
Thank you. Bye.
add it to your soups
Yeah.
to freshen it up. Add it
Very good.
toward the end of your
Very good.
cooking time.
Usually, if you're going to freeze the herbs, let's say you just want to freeze the herbs for, let me think. Maybe make a puree of the herbs and freeze that, like you're saying, is blanch them, okay? Because otherwise you're going to have those darken and look brown and mushy after you freeze them. So by blanching them, you actually brighten the chlorophyll. Think photosynthesis, right, from elementary school, right, guys? So blanch it, you brighten the chlorophyll, and then take it and freeze it or puree it and freeze it. Or make your pesto out of blanched basil if you're then going to freeze little bits of pesto that you can then pull out incrementally. Cool?
I tried that, that really.
You guys trying to stump me with these questions? You guys are good. 2 weeks here, right? You guys have that information? We're gonna do some soup and some puff pastry twists. We'll do maybe a sweet and a savory version. I'm not sure. Don't lock me into that. But we're gonna work with puff pastry a little bit next time. 2 weeks right
You
here.
can do the lobster biscuit?
Roasted squash biscuit. The roasted squash biscuit.
The lobster biscuit recipe?
No, but we could talk about it. Any cookbook will have the basic recipe for that. I usually make my soups a little different, you know? So come to the next one. We'll talk bisque in general, and we'll cover what you need to do for a lobster bisque. But we're going to do a roasted squash bisque from some hard winter squash.